Your argument that we'll pay $990 per person to somebody who is economically marginalized is brilliant. The challenge is that you've got a fiscus that doesn't have the ability to be able to support that. I know you've challenged me on it, right?
Yeah.
Our debt to GDP is at an alarming rate. We have the inability to be able to manage the budget constraints in terms of health and education. We've got hospitals who don't actually deliver basic medication and basic services. You run a tourism department that has got a relatively small budget in relation to what actually South African tourism should be doing and the tourism department should have. I was in Ethiopia a week ago and I saw a great sign of South Africa, and I said, I hope we could do a lot more in terms of tourism. But being in government, you realize that you're constrained by a bureaucracy, you're constrained by PFMA, as you say, but you're also constrained by money, right? And the challenge in South Africa, despite what Edward Kieswetter has done in collecting an alarming rate of tax, which is great, is unfortunately we've got a reducing or shrinking tax base and an increasing dependence on the state. So I don't know whether the state actually can pay $1,000 a month. So how do you manage that, right? Because I often hear beautiful sloganeering, but in reality, you've learned this, right? Be honest. In public works, in tourism, that running a state is tough. In fact, your boss, and I put it in inverted commas, don't take it the wrong way, has realized that his dawn is not dawning, right? He's been dawning from 2017. He's realized this is not MTN. This is a tough job. So how are you going to do this?
You know, that's why I said to you when I started this morning, we're not coming here with a complicated, ideologically infused manifesto, because we talk about a recipe, how to balance our society. I think we all acknowledge that our society is imbalanced.
Yeah.
And down here, you've got 80% of the poor, and here you've got the 10%, 20% rich. But let me deal with the how part. How are you going to manage the current fiscus better? And again, it comes to implementation. The first thing that we need to do, and believe me, I've seen government budgets, we need to go back to zero-based budgeting. Because you know what happened over the past 30 years? Every year they just added CPI and inflation. So in that budget now, it's so bloated with vanity stuff, with unnecessary stuff. Talking about tourism, when we, in the last financial year, when we were going into a deficit already, even before the end of the financial year, we all had to make a contribution to get us out of the red. And I went to go look into the tourism budget, and I was able to take out 86 million rand of projects that were in that budget, vanity projects, that's not even part of the annual performance plan. Wow. That's why we're saying the restructuring of government is so important. So that's what you do. The second one, if you listen to what we are saying to put systems in place that can detect and prevent corruption, corruption steals directly from the poor. At least 500 billion rand goes wasted over 3 years in this country. That money could have gone to the poor. And then we also say, let's look at the existing poverty alleviation projects. I was in charge of EPWP.
Yeah.
It's about almost 5 billion rand a year. But you know what happened in EPWP? A government department gets an allocation of 2 billion for EPWP purposes, which is to create temporary jobs for poverty alleviation. That government department go and appoint an implementing agent, like the Independent Development Trust or DBSA, and they take at least 10 to 15% out of that 2 billion. Then the NGOs must now actually implement the program. The NGOs also take a fee for implementing and monitoring the program. By the time you get to the actual spend of that 2 billion, you're almost left with just about 1 billion to create jobs with. Then also the people, the the EPWP is less than the minimum wage. That is what I started fighting for, to make EPWP the same as the minimum wage. The minimum wage is 3,500. EPWP is something like 17 Rand an hour. So the efficiencies in the existing programs, you review that, and you cut out all of those middlemen and agencies where all the money is going to. So we believe that you can also free a lot of money there. But the question should be asked up front. If we agree to give 999 Rand per month, what is it going to cost the state?
Yeah, you said 2% of budget. Right?
No, but per annum it will be about 15 billion.
Right.
So can't we find 15 billion so that all South Africans live a dignified life, that they are able to survive, that their children don't go to bed hungry? You know, I go into many communities and I get angry. I get angry when I see the situation that some of our people live. Look at the money. The whole issue is about access to basic services. And if you look at the census report of 2023, you have at least 92% of people have got access to electricity. But they can't afford it. A family must decide, do I buy a loaf of bread or a few units? I think, you know, that top rich people must get out and go and see how fellow South Africans live. They must go out and see how people live. And then they will not even counter my argument. They will agree to say that 80% that's living below the poverty line, we all must do something. You know, look at the private sector. They have got what they call corporate social responsibility. They just give that money to make them feel good. And then write it into the annual report, corporate social responsibility. We all need to do more. Because my big fight every day is that, yes, we've got this new democracy. But there are just a few people who are tasting the fruits of our new democracy. The rich got richer and the poor got poorer. And my struggle and my fight until you put me 6 foot there below the ground will be to make sure that we expand the base so that more people taste the fruits of our new democracy.